The message arrived while I was signing adoption papers at my attorney's office in downtown Minneapolis. Delaney, we've decided to redirect your trust fund to Lauren. She has 3 children and needs it more. Seconds later came another message from my father. It's for the best. You understand. I stared at the screen, a calm smile forming as Gerald, my lawyer, glanced up. Everything okay, Miss Walker? I handed him the phone. He read the messages, brow arching slightly before handing it back. You don't look surprised. I'm not, I replied, turning back to the adoption documents for Matteo. My name is Delaney Walker, I'm 34 years old, and I've spent my life being the dependable daughter. While my younger sister Lauren married early, had 3 kids, and constantly relied on our parents, I built a career in nonprofit education, saved carefully, and bought a home on my own. The trust fund, established by my grandfather before he passed, was supposed to be split equally between Lauren and me when we turned 35. But I've known for years that my parents would find a way to tip the scale. Growing up, Lauren's tantrums earned concern and attention. My awards and report cards were met with nods and a quick change of subject. As adults, nothing changed. Her financial failures brought open wallets. My quiet progress was invisible. 3 months ago, during a family barbecue, I overheard them on the patio. Lauren's husband had poured money into another doomed investment, and now they were drowning in debt. Delaney's portion could cover this, my mother whispered. She doesn't even have a family to support. They didn't know about Matteo. They didn't know I'd spent over a year working with an adoption agency to bring home a 5-year-old boy who lost his mother in a tragic fire. They didn't know because they never asked about my life. Too focused on rescuing Lauren, again. The day after that barbecue, I called Gerald. He had been my grandfather's lawyer and had quietly become a trusted friend. Is there any way to protect my share of the trust? He smiled and pulled out a folder labeled Walker Family Trust, Addendum. Turns out Grandpa knew them too well. He'd left a clause requiring both daughters sign consent for any change to the trust. So no, the transfer won't be happening Friday. But something else will. Tomorrow morning, I pick up Matteo. His room is ready, filled with books, stuffed animals, and a nightlight shaped like a rocket. And while they chose to invest in chaos, I chose love, stability, and a future. I think Grandpa would have been proud. Your grandfather was a sharp man, Delaney, Gerald said, sliding the final documents into a folder. He added a clause that if anyone tried to alter the trust distribution without consent from both beneficiaries, the full amount would be released immediately to the original heirs. That same afternoon, I moved my portion, roughly $2,500,000, into a secure account. Not for personal splurging, but to fund Matteo's future and seed capital for the early literacy foundation I'd been quietly building. Now, back in Gerald's office, I typed a simple reply to my parents' message. Thanks for letting me know. My phone lit up immediately, calls from both parents. No doubt they were expecting tears, maybe an argument. I declined them all, focusing instead on the final steps of Matteo's adoption. Tomorrow, I would bring him home. To a house built on love, structure, and security. Everything my grandfather intended for all his great-grandchildren, not just Lauren's. Should I notify them about the clause? Gerald asked as he tucked away the adoption file. Not yet, I said. Let them find out when they try to move the money. I smiled, glancing at the photo of Matteo on my phone. I've got more important things to focus on. As I left Gerald's office, my phone continued buzzing. Voicemails, texts, and now Lauren had joined in. Her messages were long-winded, justifying why she deserved the funds more because she had real children to support. My parents flipped between guilt trips and veiled demands. I drove home in silence, the calm kind. The kind that comes when you've stopped asking for permission. The kind that lets you paint a child's bedroom in shades of blue and orange because that's his favorite, and you're finally the one making the rules. Tomorrow, Matteo would finally have his forever home. And I would have the family I built on my terms. My parents had tried to use money to control me, but they were too late. I'd already built something priceless. Let them believe they'd won. Let them think I was still the silent daughter who always folded at the first sign of pressure. In less than 24 hours, they'd realize the quiet ones are the ones you should never underestimate. The next morning, as I was loading Matteo's welcome home backpack into the car, my doorbell rang. It was them, my mother in a pearl button coat, my father in his golf gear, both looking as flustered as they were polished. "Delaney, we need to talk," my mom said, stepping forward like she owned the house. I blocked the doorway, catching their glance as it landed on Matteo's suitcase near the door. "Going somewhere?" Dad asked, frowning. "Yes," I replied, checking my watch. "I have an important appointment in 20 minutes. "More important than family?" my mom said, voice dripping in practiced guilt. "Lauren's desperate. The kid's tuition is due, and Jason's latest venture collapsed." I looked her in the eyes. "So did your plan. If you believe in quiet strength, justice served with grace, and stories that turn the tables, don't forget to subscribe. Delaney's journey is just beginning, and what comes next will leave them speechless." Again, I added quietly. "What's that supposed to mean?" my father snapped. "Nothing," I replied, calmly, "but like I said, I have somewhere to be." I reached for my car keys, but my mother grabbed my arm. "There's something you're not telling us." Her eyes darted to the doorway, where Matteo's backpack and small rolling suitcase sat neatly by the wall. "Those look like children's luggage." She narrowed her eyes. "Delaney, what are you planning?" Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Gerald's office. "I need to take this," I said, gently slipping my arm from her grip. "It's my lawyer." "Lawyer?" My father's face flushed. "Why the hell are you talking to lawyers?" I answered and put it on speaker purposefully. "Hi, Gerald. Just checking, am I still good to pick up Matteo at 10? "Yes, all set," he said cheerfully. "Adoption papers are finalized. He's very excited to meet his new mom." The silence from my parents was immediate and loud. They stood there, stunned, eyes flickering between me and the bags. "Adoption?" my mother whispered. "You're adopting a child? Without talking to us first?" "I'm 34, Mom," I said, picking up Matteo's backpack. "I don't need to consult you to start my family. My daughter is waiting." "Daughter?" my father echoed, voice breaking. "But what about the trust fund? We've already promised Lauren." "That's not really my concern," I said, stepping outside. "You made your decision about the money. I've made mine about what matters." "You can't afford a child without that trust fund," my mother blurted. "You need to stop this right now." I paused and turned, letting the mask slip just a little. "You know what's wild? In all these years, neither of you asked about my salary, my plans, or my investments. You just assumed I had nothing because I don't broadcast everything like Lauren." They exchanged uncertain glances. "Well," my father began, "based on your salary." "My salary as a senior child advocate, my investments, and the inheritance Grandpa left me directly in his will, outside the trust, have left me more than stable." Their mouths parted, but no words came. "Oh," I added, "you probably didn't notice that clause. Too busy helping Lauren burn through her half within the first year, I suppose." "But Lauren needs," my mother stammered. I cut her off with a steady look. "So do children without homes. I chose one of them." I walked to my car, and in the rearview mirror, I saw, for the first time, them left behind. "Lauren wants," I corrected. "There's a difference. And now, I really do need to go. Matteo's waiting." As I pulled out of the driveway, I saw them still standing there, frozen in disbelief, like the script they'd written suddenly stopped making sense. My phone buzzed again, Lauren this time. I flipped it to silent and focused on the road ahead. The adoption center was warm and cheerful, with a mural of children playing under a tree. Matteo sat quietly in the reading corner, holding the worn stuffed giraffe he took everywhere. When he looked up and saw me, his whole face lit up. That smile erased every cold dinner table, every condescending comment, every ignored achievement. "Ready to go home, sweetheart?" I asked, kneeling beside him. He nodded, then paused. "Will they like me?" he asked softly. "Oh, honey, your family. Will they like me?" I pulled him into a hug. "We are family now, Matteo, just you and me. We're going to build something strong, something loving." The rest? They'll catch up. Or they won't. Either way, we're going to be just fine. On the way home, he chattered excitedly about his new room, what color he wanted to paint the walls, and how many books we could fit in the shelf. Just as I turned into our neighborhood, a message from Gerald popped up. Your parents just attempted to access the trust. Clause triggered. Shall I proceed? I looked in the rearview mirror. Matteo was hugging his giraffe, watching the world with quiet wonder. Yes, I typed. It's time they understood what Grandpa really left behind. The next morning, chaos came knocking, literally. My father's enraged voice filled my voicemail. What do you mean the money's gone? Delaney, what have you done? My mother's messages were a mix of sobbing guilt trips and angry accusations. Lauren's were the worst. You've ruined everything. My kids' school, our future. You're a monster. I sat at the kitchen island watching Matteo happily eat chocolate chip pancakes. He looked up at me between bites. Are you sad? He asked, syrup dotting his cheek. No, sweetheart, I smiled, wiping his face. Just thinking about how lucky I am this morning. A sharp knock at the door pulled me out of the moment. Through the window, I saw my parents' SUV in the drive. Lauren's minivan pulled up right behind it. Matteo, remember what we practiced for loud situations? He nodded and reached for his noise-canceling headphones. Good job, I whispered. Let's head upstairs and read for a while. Once he was tucked into his reading nook, I went back downstairs and opened the front door. Lauren stormed in first, her face red with rage. How dare you steal my children's future? I tilted my head. Interesting choice of words, especially from someone who tried to steal mine. That was different, my mother snapped. We were trying to help. Help who, Mom? I asked. Lauren's kids or Lauren's lifestyle? I glanced pointedly at her designer handbag and her fresh salon highlights. When was the last time you even asked about my life, my goals, my dreams? You never needed help, my father said, arms crossed. You were always stable. Stable, I echoed. You mean boring, predictable. The quiet backdrop to Lauren's constant chaos. I shook my head. Well, guess what? Grandpa saw this coming. He knew exactly how this would play out. I pulled an envelope from the kitchen drawer. The letter Grandpa had left with Gerald. Would you like to know what he really thought about your parenting choices? My mother's face lost its color as she slowly sank into a chair. What are you talking about? Grandpa knew you'd favor Lauren. He watched it happen year after year. That's why he added the clause about immediate distribution if either of you tried to change the terms. He wanted to protect me from this exact situation. But where's the money now? Lauren demanded. You have to give it back. A soft voice came from the stairs. Mama, my book fell. We all turned. Matteo stood at the landing, headphones around his neck, hugging his giraffe. The room fell completely silent. My mother's eyes widened as she looked between him and me. Mama, she whispered. Yes, I said, walking over to scoop up Matteo's book. Everyone, meet Matteo. My son. You spent the trust fund on him? Lauren asked, eyes wide. No, I replied, turning calmly. I invested my portion into something much bigger. I took a deep breath. The Walker Children's Advocacy Center opens next month. It'll provide legal aid, mental health services, and safe housing for kids like Matteo, children who've been overlooked, underestimated, or worse. Just like Grandpa wanted. The trust fund wasn't just money to me, it was a mission, a responsibility, a way to carry forward his legacy. Not just to protect children, but to empower them. My father stared at the floor, silent. All this time, I continued, you thought I was just existing quietly. But I've been building something. Something that matters. While you clung to appearances, I chose purpose. But what about my kids? Lauren cried. Their tuition. What are we supposed to do? I looked at her gently. Maybe it's time they went to public school, I said. Like I did, maybe it's time they learned what it means to earn something, not just receive it. Matteo tugged my sleeve. Can we finish our story now? I smiled. Yes, sweetheart, let's go read. Can we finish our pancakes now? Matteo asked, tilting his head. Of course, sweetheart. I turned back to my family, still lingering near the front door. You're welcome to be part of our lives, part of something real, but it has to be on different terms. No more favoritism, no more guilt trips, no more treating me like the afterthought. My mother glanced at Matteo, then at me. Her expression softened, like something finally clicked. "As has your eyes," she whispered, that same quiet determination. "He has Grandpa's spirit," I said gently. "And just like Grandpa, I'll protect the people I love, fiercely." No one argued. One by one they left the house, subdued, carrying the weight of a truth they had refused to see for years. When the door closed behind them, I let out a quiet breath and walked back into the kitchen. "Are they mad?" Matteo asked, chewing thoughtfully. "They're learning," I replied, drizzling a little more syrup on his pancakes. "Sometimes people have to lose something to realize what they've taken for granted." That night, after I tucked Matteo into bed, surrounded by books, dinosaurs, and the soft glow of his rocket nightlight, I sat by the window, sipping tea. A message lit up my phone. "Mom, your grandfather would be proud. Maybe we could visit the advocacy center when it opens. I'd like to help, maybe read to the kids." I smiled, typing back. "Matteo would love that. He adores story time." Maybe this was the start of something new. Maybe healing didn't have to mean forgetting. Maybe growth looked like difficult conversations and second chances on different terms. I used to think revenge meant proving them wrong, but I've learned something far more powerful. The best revenge is building something better from the ashes, from the pain, from the past they tried to bury. Matteo and I, we've created a family rooted in love, respect, and resilience. And maybe, just maybe, there's still space for others to grow, too. Not as the people they were, but as who they're trying to become. But this time, the invitation is on our terms. And this time, we're the ones holding the pen. If Delaney's story resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment, share your thoughts, your support, or even a moment when you had to stand your ground. Your voice matters. Every message reminds me that I'm not alone in choosing the harder path to build something meaningful. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. This journey isn't just mine, it's ours. If I've learned anything, it's this. Silence isn't peace, and kindness doesn't mean surrender. Don't let others define your worth. Build your own story, and when they underestimate you, let your actions speak louder than their doubts.